the river, you might be getting a little bit of those in Nebraska, and it truly is. Iowa is such a hot spot, especially with the caucuses approaching and with the, political ads running constantly. So Nebraskans are really used to being bombarded with that and having a lot of political candidates visit our area, but just on the other side of the river, as Ray had mentioned. Yes.
Yeah. But it is neat, as you mentioned, Brendan, in 2012, the plane touched down here, but then he went straight to Iowa. In 2008 was when he made his actual visit to Omaha. So now, this would be in the Civic Auditorium. What was that, 10,000 people?
Overflow crowd of 10,000 people. The chanting, many people at home remember the Yes We Can, because that was the campaign slogan back then. And in fact, a lot of viewers writing on social media today who were there and saying
this is Melissa here
of witnessing that time.
Yeah, and obviously, now,
hey, Joe and Valerie, if you can hear me, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
One little tidbit about 2008. That visit that President Obama made to Nebraska was actually very fruitful. He wasn't president yet, and he won one of our electoral votes. As I'm sure you know, Nebraska and Maine are the only two states in the entire nation where our electoral votes are divided by congressional districts.
Mom, why does it
winner take all like everywhere else. And even though Barack Obama didn't win the vote in all of Nebraska, he won the congressional district of Omaha, and he got an extra electoral vote for that. So he might not have succeeded in all of Nebraska, but he did well here, so it was worth it.
And yeah, that is a good point to point out. I knew that he got that one electoral vote, and he mentioned in his speech that it was the first time he was here. He did end up winning the Nebraska caucus, and he mentioned that he was very thankful for that. Then he kind of shifted gears 4 years later when he said he kind of got whooped, was as he put it, literally word for word. But he said he still loves Nebraska. So, he does remember the good, and he also remembers the bad. But this visit, I think it was a lot of pressure off his shoulders, and this was one of more just, this is my last year. I want to hold on to this, and I want to take everything I can and really get to experience it.
Certainly more off the cuff. And one of the things I thought that, really stuck out is as he wrapped up, he just mentioned Lisa Martin again, the teacher, saying teachers like Lisa come in early to help students, parents volunteering in schools, coaches of Little League, folks fighting on our behalf halfway around the world, and their families and veterans in coffee shops all across Nebraska and Louisiana. That's why I'm hopeful about our future, because you, the American people, God bless you, everybody. And it was just such a moment because it brought it all back together. Lisa Martin, obviously, introducing him, and the Papillion teacher that has really created a firestorm in her neighborhood. Neighbors will not forget who she is, or the fact that because of her letter to the president written at 4 o'clock in the morning, that he was in their neighborhood greeting them and taking photos with them.
It makes you wonder what those neighbors are going to be saying to her tomorrow.
Right.
What was that?
Who's coming today?
Exactly.
Who's coming to visit?
Write another letter. But yeah, so what an experience for her. And he really tied in his speech, he went back to her a lot. And he's, of course, meeting with a Roscoe family, and he's really taking time to meet with individuals on a very personal basis.
Well, he was inside her home for more than half an hour, and really not only just talked to Lisa, but as he referenced several times, he referenced her mother, he referenced her father, he referenced her son. So he really got that personal one-on-one with their family, learning their background, referencing her mother as a nurse, and some of their job background, as well as he tied it in to the nationwide picture. And again, a lot of people, emphasizing that it was the State of the Union, but there were those personal touches along the way, referencing Nebraska, whether it's Nebraska Medicine or and really tying it all together.
And speaking of Nebraska Medicine, they also just keeping track of social media here at the desk.
And I'm very excited
that they are thanking the president for his visit. Nebraska Medicine also thanked the president for him relaying his gratitude for the hours, months, days. The amount of work that went into the entire Ebola situation that we experienced here in Omaha really speaks to the crew at Nebraska Medicine. And it struck a chord with the president and worldwide, obviously. This was a story that everybody had their eyes on. And for him to personally say something about that, I think that means a lot to those workers.
And hours earlier, we saw Omaha Mayor Jean Staudt. She was at the base of Air Force One. She tweeted out 42 minutes ago, at Offutt Air Force Base, President Obama told me, I hear there are a lot of good things happening in Omaha. And, all of our political leaders that Brandon Scott interviewed live on air, saying all politics aside, this is a big deal. That was the exact terminology Governor Pete Ricketts used. This is a big deal for Omaha. And it was witnessing, a moment that we haven't seen since 2008. And again, that was campaign season. That was a much different visit than this. As you mentioned, and Joe, it was a lot more relaxed, a lot more candid, a lot more off the cuff. The pressure's off. Now we're taking a live look. The presidential motorcade is pulling into Offutt Air Force Base. We've seen 5 or 6 cars go by with flashing lights right now.
And this is a live look. It's happening right now. And as we mentioned, we were kind of driving our coverage today based off of the itinerary given out by the White House. And that, of course, had the president taking off around 5:20. And now you're looking at the clock. It's about 6 o'clock. So you can see that
I really care about everything I do.
Obviously, didn't feel the
But
need to rush
except
out, but
hurt
made time
people.
for everybody that he set aside a specific agenda with, which he had a few stops to make, and we were there for some of them, which were very exciting. Now, of course, it is wrapping up. That motorcade making its way to Offutt, and then he will get on the plane, as Brandon mentioned, a different
And
plane.
now
A different plane, a smaller plane, because
of
that
course
was
I'll
not-
never hurt
It'll
you.
handle the 4,000 square feet Air Force One that we saw earlier, the Boeing plane, and it is 3 levels. I don't think that really gives you an idea how
Yeah.
big it is. When we saw people stepping off the plane, it put it into perspective. You can even see folks standing next to the smaller plane, and obviously it's not a small plane by any stretch of the imagination. But we
you do
are
see
so
the
fortunate.
difference.
You do,
Yeah.
and we are so fortunate to have Offutt Air Force Base. Look at how smoothly everything has been running. They have been accommodating. They've been organized out there and excited. Thanking the
very
president.
excited.
They were excited to witness the commander in chief arriving here in this moment.
And I know Brandon was saying that he did get the chance to talk with those people who work at Offutt. You said they're thankful that everything is running smoothly. Brandon, I heard you were about to say something. What's going on out there?
We're putting it.
Yeah, I was. I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but the president has pulled up. He's here, the beast, the giant limo, the, as I said earlier, American-made Cadillac. I love saying that. The Cadillac has arrived. The president's inside that Cadillac, and in just a moment he will be getting out and he will be walking up those stairs. He had a huge entourage. They're still pulling in. You can't see it, but the cars are still pulling in.
Yeah.
And can you imagine everywhere you went having such a huge entourage? It's nuts. But the president having a giant entourage with him, his motorcade, he's inside that limo. He might have gotten out. I can't quite see. I wonder which door he's going to exit.
Right there.
We'll find out here in just a second. But
I
they're
can't see
ready
him
for
still
him.
in that
He'll be
car,
walking up
Brandon.
the stairs here momentarily.
He is still in the car right now, Brandon. We can see him because they have those floodlights out there. We want
Yeah.
to thank Offutt for setting those up so folks at home can witness
Okay,
President
good.
Barack Obama
Good.
getting out of the car.
And here he is. He is out.
Drinking coffee.
President Barack Obama just stepped out of the motorcade, making his
Hold
way
up your one
to a
hand.
smaller
Now he's gonna
version
stand and he's
of
gonna
Air
wave.
Force One, walking up the steps right now, solo. He's by
Let's see
himself.
if he
at the
waves
time.
to us.
Let's see if he
Watch,
turns
you're
around,
gonna miss
waves
him
to
waving.
Nebraska.
There he goes.
The presidential
And what
wave
do you
and
say?
smile.
And the trip is over. And it was a very successful trip, and one that I think is going to be very memorable for the entire city. So
Our
again,
entire
he landed.
state. It was
Entire
just
state.
absolutely
Yeah.
impressive at all
There
the
he
communities he
goes.
got to visit because
He's
he
gonna
didn't just
sit
go to
on the
Omaha, of course,
plane.
Bellevue, Papillion. He made his way
He
all
did a
over.
bunch of stuff, yeah. And as we have been following this story, he landed at 2:09. He has now gotten back on Air Force One, taking up the steps and going inside at 6 o'clock. So a solid, about 4-hour visit right here in our city.
President Barack Obama boarding Air Force One at Offutt Air Force Base. The turnaround, the wave, wrapping up.
wanna say
Just
to
an
the president?
amazing day for our city, for our community.
Say, "Thank you,
And,
Mr.
I think
President."
you said it a
Thank
couple
you,
of times,
Mr.
but for those
President.
folks, I know a lot of people are just getting home.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And, really witness some of the moments on
And
social
Mommy
media.
is a
What we
darn
expected
it.
walking in
Mommy
today
is a
was